Hello and welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. The Local Leaders Podcast provides a platform for successful business owners to share their stories, their experiences, their advice, and their ideas in order to help our listeners achieve more success in their business and in their lives. Get ready, another great show is coming up. Good morning, everyone. It's Jeff Johnson, your host of the Local Leaders Podcast, and I am here today with Gardy Desrouleaux. I'm sorry, Gardy Desrouleaux. You just told me how to say it. I told you I was going to blow it. Here today with Gardy Desrouleaux, and we appreciate you being on the show today, and thank you so much. He's from Craft Food Hall Project. Welcome to the podcast, Gardy.
Well, thank you, Jeff. It's a blessing.
Well, again, I apologize for my lack of skill, but that's not what it's all about today. What we're hoping to do is to be able to kind of share with our audience and the world some of your experience and background and the things that you're doing. So I'm just going to hand it off to you to begin with, Gardy, and just have you share your story of Craft Food Hall Project and what it's all about.
Well, thank you very much. Real basic. You know, we were founded in 2017 by Doug and Melissa Ferryman, extraordinary restaurateurs. They founded a couple of pizza concepts, and this was just the next thing on the venture. In 2019, they were looking to expand, and thankfully we were connected by one of my vendors and a good friend of theirs, with a friend of mine as well. And they thought we should link up. And when we linked up, it was just pure magic. We didn't talk about our experiences. We spoke about just our intentions and our heart for people. And we found out really quickly that we had the same goals when building a restaurant. And that was taking care of our people. And that was actually the first thing above all else. So that's kind of how it started. In 2019, we expanded to our second location. And third location in the same year. In 2020, we opened up our fourth location, and it was extraordinary. So we have a total now of 5 locations. Tail end of 2020, we opened up another location in Marlborough, Massachusetts as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a blessing, especially going through the pandemic, to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing in itself to you guys got started actually just before the pandemic, and then you were still able to keep growing and adding locations. So how did you do it? Tell us tell us about the concept first and kind of what it's all about, and then we'll talk about how you were able to grow it.
Concept is very basic. It's a food hall concept. We're the first sous vide food hall in America. Sous vide, if you don't know, is time and temperature controlled cooking used with a circulator. So it's a sous vide bath. It's vacuum sealed protein, grains, vegetables, and we put that in all of our main dishes. So in a food hall concept, typically you have multiple vendors. Yeah. We own the vendors. We wanted to have continuity, and so instead of having to deal with 5-6 different vendors who don't really have the same standards, we decided to create our own concept. So we're concept driven. We have our super concepts. Project X is our pizza concept, street pizza, and it's just extraordinary. But it also has a sub concepts which has a wings brand and a crave crust sandwich brand, which is the best sandwiches you'll have. Then our next super concept is called Vessel, which is a concept that focuses on biodynamicism and Ayurveda. So it's functional medicine and Ayurveda put together. And then our massive brand, our other super concept is Sous Videry, which incorporates all the sous vide techniques, but has all the sub-brands for tacos and ramen, so on and so forth. And so we can go ahead and jump into any situation. If a guest or a landlord says they don't want pizza, we have quite a few other brands that'll work for them as well. And then we have our pour your own beer wall in our food halls. That's another one of our brands we consider because it activates the space and makes the space very, very fluid. Everybody walks around and pours their own beer and they come in having a good time. And the last piece of our food hall concept is the escapism factor. So people come in, they play ping pong, they play shuffleboard, they play giant Connect Four, and just have a grand old time escaping from the day to day. And that's part of our success model in during the pandemic. As everything was shutting down, people remembered having an experience. So when everything opened back up, they looked to have the experience with us again.
Wow, that is amazing because and I'm thinking about that experience piece. You're selling the experience with your concept, with your brand, or brands within those concepts, and that had to be tough during COVID. So how were you able to continuously continue to grow during that time period and keep customers engaged?
Well, we found our niche. My partner Doug has an extraordinary mind. We found a niche in the industrial building side. So a lot of these cafeterias in these executive parks have been left untouched for the last 40 years. Mm. So we decided to go after them and redo the cafeteria model and turn them into food halls. And so we go into a lot of these cafeterias and look at them, and they all look the same. They all have been left untouched. And we wanted to add the new element. The Gen Zs and the millennials are looking for a reason to come to work, and we wanted to be part of that reason. So we partnered with the landlords and property developers and property managers to create these food halls that we have ones that are retail locations open to the public, but how do we create that same idea inside the four walls of an executive park? Mm. And that's what we've been doing, is opening up both to the public and to a tenant-based population. And it encourages a lot of people to stay home, to come in instead of staying home.
Well, I think that's that's a very creative approach that you guys have taken and came up with that idea and to build your concept around, and obviously it's worked. Especially, I can see how if you're in those tenant locations or you're in I'm thinking about here locally. There's a town nearby that's a bunch of old tobacco buildings, old industrial buildings have been turned into lofts and things like that. And that's what I'm picturing in my head for some of your locations is that you're in some of these areas where there's a lot of people already living there and working there, and you can draw those in. Is that accurate?
That is 100% accurate, because you're thinking right now, this is the era of life sciences. A lot of building developers are creating life science complexes, and they really need amenities to do well. They need amenities to draw in. And so we've become partners with the landlords in bringing in these massive, massive tenants. We were able to help. We were a massive part of the decision for when potential tenants, prospective tenants come in, they sign because they are super happy with the amenity. We activate the entire space. Now, the life science side is it's lapsed, right? It's pretty straightforward. But how about the common area spaces, the lounging, the entire dynamicism of the space revolves around the amenity. You have to have a gym, right? So what does a gym look like? How is it activated? You have to have a cafeteria. How does the cafeteria look like? How is it activated? And we take all of that into consideration, and we do soup to nuts. So we actually design all the way to completion. From soup to nuts, we have everything kind of mapped out and built out. We have something called a Mind Impact Program, because people coming on Mondays, for example, and they don't want to be at work on Mondays. So we use our projection mapping tools to go ahead and do something that activates a piece of your mind that makes you feel comfortable being at work on a Monday, for example. And these things are important. For example, you can project a Bob Marley concert and have that play on Wednesday, and having people really get excited about the upcoming weekend. So, it gets you over that hump. So we we're just not food. We take everything into consideration when dealing with our partners.
I got that. That's really, really awesome. So I'm thinking that from a growth or development perspective, you kind of have maybe two prospective customers. You're looking for new developers who have a location that needs to be activated, or that kind of fits your model and that you guys could thrive in, to help them really sell those spaces that they're selling. Plus, you've got the general public that you want to invite in, for food. Is that a fair statement?
That is 100% accurate. So we partner with these landlords and say, look, you have an opportunity here to not only service your tenants, but you have an opportunity to service your community. And if you do that, then obviously the sales volume, what you would normally get square footage wise as rent, it becomes an X multiplier when you allow the community to come in as well.
Wow, amazing! That is that is really unique. I've not seen a concept like this as of yet. I don't know if you're the only one in the country or not, but very innovative, very unique, and congratulations to you and your team for being able to pull this off.
Oh, it's been a blessing, and really it's the team. When I got together with Doug and Melissa, like I mentioned, we found out we had a passion for people. So our company policy is you don't have to like anyone, but you have to love everyone. So the people of the company create this extraordinary culture. They contribute to the escapism, because you don't just come to craft food halls. You come to see Justin. You come to see whoever's the person is in that particular location, because you want to escape the normal day to day. And so our team is extraordinary.
Yeah, that is I tell you, it really takes a village sometimes to create and build what you guys are doing, and it's big. I mean, this isn't opening up a hot dog stand, on the corner. You've got multiple brands, multiple food concepts. You've got this whole building development, design and development, and creating the space and getting it ready, and so you can activate it, as you said. I like that you're activating the space. I caught that a couple of times, I think. And what a value proposition I think you're bringing to the communities who are looking to revitalize these older spaces and bring people in. And again, I've got a lead in my head for you right now. I don't know if you want to go to Virginia or not, but I've got one right here that would be ideal for such a project. So do you have, is there a member of your team that's kind of on that development side, the commercial development, that's out looking for opportunities?
Yes, that's actually my partner, Doug, and I. We go. Yes, so we go out and we mine these leads. So we're currently based in Massachusetts. That's where we started, but our developments are in New Hampshire, Tennessee, California. We're going to end up in Ireland. We're talking to someone who's in Ireland right now. So we're open, really, because we really focus on the partnerships and kind of how does this develop. And when you're dealing with big property development companies, they're all over the place. So when they get a taste of what this is in one location, in one market, they envision that for every market. So for us, we have no limitations.
Yeah, that's awesome. So any of our listeners who are out there and you kind of got an idea for Gardy and his team, we'll have his website up here on the screen. You can reach out that way on the contact page, and we'll make sure we share your contact information for any would-be opportunities as well. Or you can come to me and I can get you in touch with Gardy and his team. So that's awesome. So tell me this. Let me switch gears for a minute and just talk about maybe a couple of the major hurdles or challenges that you guys have faced. Maybe the first, back when you first started in 2019, when you started pulling this thing together, was there anything that steps out in your mind or jumps out that was a kind of a major hurdle? Financing, capital, staffing, anything in particular?
Really, the one that sticks out the most for us was our identity crisis. Because We needed to pick a direction, and we didn't know if we wanted to franchise. We didn't know if we wanted to, stay on the retail end and build more retail locations, and we didn't know if we really wanted to go into the tenant world that way either. And how do you communicate that to the world? How do you communicate to the world that, yes, you have retail locations that are open to the public, but you have locations that are 100% tenant-based, but you have some locations that are 50-50 tenant-based, and then it became very difficult to categorize for us.
Yeah.
And then we just decided to not categorize it. We let the public decide what we were, and that was the best thing we could have done, because all we did was focus on our infrastructure, focus on our people, primarily their financial education. So we have a transparent model, which means that anyone from the dishwasher and up can learn how to read the P&Ls and how to contribute to the P&L and everything like that. And then they go ahead and they exude knowledge and expertise. And so we focus on that. And then we focused on our love, energy, food model. And like I mentioned, you don't have to like anyone, you have to love everyone. But what does that mean? How do you define that? Because again, our society defines love a trillion different ways. Mm-hmm. And internally, we had to make sure we had the foundation built out so that whenever they get in contact with someone, for example, a potential tenant or a landlord or a regular guest call, it's the clear message across the board. And that's what really, really, really helped us to grow and solidify where we are. Now, concretely, yes, we had financial issues because of the pandemic, and we had to find different ways. We had to reinvest. My partner and I had to reinvest our life savings to make sure that we stayed afloat. We tapped into our tenant partners and asked for rent relief and things like that. We did all of the things that we naturally needed to do, and I was, thankful for going through the recession in 2008, and I was with the Cheesecake Factory back then, and so I learned a lot about maintaining a financial model during that time. Nobody could have understood what COVID would have done, but at least we had a framework there that enabled us to stay alive. And part of that, really, we had to furlough our early team members, but we retained our senior management, our senior leadership, and they kept on, again, working on the brands. They kept on working on the structure, on the framework, while the world was shut down.
Yeah, I can certainly see how, with your model and in some cases when you're, maybe the tenant-based business was okay and thriving, but I think the pandemic put a hit on just about everybody and made it really challenging. Made us all have to reevaluate our business and what we were doing and how we were doing it. And we're still facing those challenges today. Now we're talking about a new version of the virus, and that scares people. Have you guys experienced, I'm assuming you have, but staffing and food costs and shortages have been a challenge on the restaurant side. Have you guys had that experience as well?
Not on the employment side. Reason being, two major things. One, we had word of mouth going because of our policy of love, energy, food, not liking everyone, but loving everyone. Everybody understands that the restaurant industry for the past 400 years has been a broken industry, right? The abuse, the mishandle, is just it's a different approach than most other professions. So because of the approach that we've taken, people found us to be a safe haven. And so people were flocking to us when they were leaving the industry. People left, the restaurant industry trying to reinvent themselves. But thankfully, people came here. The second part of that model for us is we train people. It means that we don't go and poach from a different restaurant. We go to Office Depot and poach someone who has an extraordinary smile, extraordinary heart, and who's open to learning. So we train them on our methods. We go, to different professions where people are looking just for an engaging change. And so they come into our environment, they feel loved, and then they stay.
Well, that is definitely a different thing that you hear in this industry, and people are often grabbing those people that are hopping from one restaurant to another, and in a lot of cases you're kind of feeding from the bottom of the barrel. So you just totally change that dynamic right there, and I love the fact that it's kind of two-pronged. One, you got the word of mouth. People know what you're all about and they want to be a part of that, and kind of have a better quality of life. And then you're training and helping people create a new career. How many employees do you guys have? I didn't ask you that ahead of time.
We just hit one. No, we're 98. We're almost at 100.
Okay, I'm almost at the big 100 mark. So that training and development program, has I'm sure kind of grown over the last couple of years as you've built out and expanded. And the one thing that I like, and I think it also gives you guys an advantage, is I would imagine there's multiple silos of growth, or you can probably hop from the restaurant side maybe over to this other side and have an opportunity to continue to move yourself up the ladder, so to speak. Has that been kind of part of the plan as well?
That's a great topic, because it's actually a two-pronged approach there. One of the biggest success stories is a gentleman that moved from Brazil. He spoke okay English, but he was a graphic designer, and a pretty talented graphic designer. But when we hire people, we hire them with purpose. That means that we're not going to hire another graphic designer to take over for another graphic designer. That doesn't make any sense. And so we hired him, letting him know, look, you're going to come in on the food side, and my vision for you is to be in the food side. He agreed because he loved the environment, not working a day in his life in the kitchen. And so as a graphic designer, he became the most successful supervisor that we have. He's extraordinary, knows our product better than anyone else. So that's the one approach, is taking an individual and making him understand, look, this is your career path. And yes, you have an opportunity to jump off and do other things, but I promise you, this is the career path for you. And then the other side of it is, when you're hiring an individual, really finding out what their core beliefs are, because we're all about transparency. As one of our tenants, our core tenants, is transparency. I need to fully understand what you want from me, because it's not just about what I need from you, it's what you want from me. And I talk about needs and wants so often that everybody understands really what the difference is. And so what they want from me is that they want to make sure that they get paid on time. And so they have transparency by looking at the P&L. They want to make sure that they have their benefits. So we, as a restaurant company, it's unorthodox to give 100. We pay 100% of all benefits. So health, dental, vision, and we also set up a 401k plan, because again, the restaurant industry already has smaller margins, so it's hard to imagine having that set up. But
Yeah.
There's a lot of things packed in there. But one of the things we're looking at is, there's an accounting principle that talk about running to zero, right? So if you're running at an optimal point, you always know what you need to have to ensure that everyone is meeting your expectations. That means their salary expectations and your overhead expectations. So why do you technically need, quote unquote, a profit? So the profit is not technically profit if you're allocating it to growth. And so that's the way that we piece everything together. So our margins are reduced, but our potential for growth increases, because everyone doesn't have a dangling carrot. They're not working towards a bonus. We don't do bonuses and we don't do reviews. We have people come in at the price point that they know that they need to be able to be successful in their lifestyle, and then we're able to run further.
That's all.
I know it was
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I know there was a lot in there. I apologize.
No. That was fantastic, and I was taking notes as you were talking, typing as quickly as I could, trying to catch it all. Some great points and some great things for people to consider. Kind of the approach that you guys have taken, and it's not just a hit and miss kind of thing. I mean, you've got a thoughtful, direct, I guess, path or program that you guys have created, and have built, out over the years from hiring and development of your people. And, it's really different. And I applaud you for stepping out there and trying to make these things better so that people have a better quality of life in this business. As we all know, the food industry has not always been known for generating a good quality of life for people. So thank you for that.
Oh man, thank you for that. I mean, it's a blessing to be able to do that, and that's one of our goals in life. We want to make sure we're doing well. We're able to maintain our life. We want every person that works with us and for us to be able to maintain their lives, and we can't bring anyone in if we can't make that dedication and that promise to that individual. So that's kind of how we're running our business.
Yeah, well, I can see why the staffing side has been good to you, and but from a margin perspective, and you talked a little bit about that as well. The costs and the shortages, going up, I'm sure have had some impact on you as well. Have you guys had to or been in a position to be able to do any price increases to try to absorb some of those extra food costs?
We're in the process of doing that, but we're very careful because everyone is struggling. Everyone's prices are going up. Everyone, you go to the grocery store and you're like, what happened? Or you're trying to remodel your home and then the price of lumber is 3 times what it used to be.
Yeah.
And so we're very, very incremental with that. But we've been very, very fortunate because the way that we cook allows us to use products that most people would find undesirable and make them the star of the show. For example, there's a bavette cut of steak. Now, to be able to get it to chew like a fillet, it's wildly impossible to do it on a grill. It takes a very talented person to do a combination of saute grill and oven to get that meat the way that you want it. But because of our sous vide technique, it's the most tender piece of meat you'll ever experience. And so because we're able to be flexible, we don't necessarily have to up the prices or skyrocket the prices like a lot of other people would.
That's very cool. I hadn't thought about that you'd be able to take, I guess maybe some of the subprime items periodically or that are out there and be able to cook them in a fashion that makes them taste like a fillet or chew like a fillet. And that's very helpful and, a great byproduct of the business that you chose. So that's fantastic as well. Any other struggles or kind of major things that you've run across in recent months or years that you wanted to mention?
No, I guess the most glaring one is, our society becoming a little bit more pessimistic. Life is beautiful. It really is. And everyone struggles. I just had, one of my key players, a family member passed away and, he's struggling. And I had another, team member, they're going through particular hardships. Everyone is going through something. So, it's very, very difficult when you meet a league of people who try to push against positivity. And I just think that's unnecessary. And so we're combating that. Again, we want to be a safe haven. I'm heavily involved. I sit on, Chamber of Commerce boards of directors and things like that to ensure that I stay abreast of what's happening in the communities and help them stay optimistic and push through a lot of the troubles. COVID didn't help with fear. And we in our company we say the opposite of fear is love, and the opposite of love is fear. And so we combat that daily with people who have preconceived notions about certain things, or who want to be dark on a lot of different fronts. I think that's the most difficult thing with business in general. It's let alone life.
No doubt, and pushing positivity is is definitely something that we need more of out in the world, not only here in the U.S. but across the globe. And I appreciate all that you're doing. I'm sure all the people that you're in contact with are as well. And what a great place to work. So I just looked down at my clock and I'm getting close. So let me just switch you over real quick. I wanted to ask you about marketing, which I mentioned earlier. I just wanted to touch on maybe, do you guys have a marketing team, marketing leader, marketing director, and kind of what are y'all doing to promote the business, and what's working?
The street marketing is what's working the most. Is the good old fashioned door knocking and telling everybody that you're there, yeah. Because people did forget during the pandemic that you're there.
Right. Yeah.
But clean. I think the communication has to be clean. What do you want people to understand about you? As quick, as concise. The writing 200 words on a piece of paper and then posting it somewhere. People don't have time to read that. People's attention span is very limited. And stay abreast with the current technology. Everyone, 50% of the world is mad at Facebook, but they did something magical, and so use it to your advantage and understand what they need from you to be able to be successful. And so that's what we do. We have clean communication. Yes, we have a marketing structure. So a lot of small business owners, we all know we wear 1,000 hats.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we make the sacrifices where we feel the sacrifices need to be made. Instead of looking at, something that's a little bit outside of the box to help your business grow. So whatever it is for you, whatever outside of the box is for you, research that. Outside of the box for us was definitely marketing, because how many restaurants do you believe, and we're talking about small businesses here, do you believe actually have a marketing person or a marketing push? Because they don't see the direct value and the transition to dollars. They don't see that, but it's so important. You need a person to advocate for you. You need a person to go out there 40 hours a week and fight for you. And you might not see the dollars immediately, but eventually you will. And our viewership on Instagram, tripled, quadrupled since the pandemic. Our viewership on the different media platforms, people are engaged and they're having fun. And we're following a lot of these trends, not fully. We know what they are, and we engage where we feel that makes sense for us. But at least we know what they are, and we can speak to that. Staying relevant is important. I'm 32 years old, and my business partner is 50. We could be well on the way of not knowing what today's lingo is. We're well on the way of not understanding. But just like we would study new financial models, we're studying the marketing models. We're studying the norms of today, and understanding how to communicate to our different target audience. Our demographic and sociographic is known to us, and so we play to that.
Yeah, well, and that was very well said, and you're right. And I work with a lot of independent restaurants, single unit to multi-unit, but especially on the single unit side. Not very many of them make any investments on the marketing side on a regular basis. Primarily they're hoping and working through Facebook and Instagram. That's gonna keep the business flowing. But I like your take on it. That it's kind of a long haul. You need an advocate. You need someone out there, really communicating the essence, the value, the commitment to the community of that brand, and I think marketing is a great way to do that. And it's just always interesting to hear people's take on, kind of what's there, what should we be doing, what are we doing, what would we like to be doing. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. So thank you very much.
Well, the last piece that I would love to share is the word marketing always sounds so dangerous to people. And we use community impact as well. How does this team impact the community on a day-to-day basis? And that sends the message across.
I like that. I'm taking a note of that one right now because that does sound a little less scary and a lot more positive to kind of go back to the positivity side. What kind of impact are you having, and are you having an impact at all? And if you're not, then maybe you ought to do something a little bit different. So again, thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for, taking the time to come on our show and talk about some of these things. And, I'll just ask you one little final question, and not to put you on the spot too bad, but any words of advice that you might give to an entrepreneur, a restaurateur, someone kind of at the, on the edge of stepping into the business or maybe expanding their current business?
Find a mentor.
Like it.
Yeah, find someone who you can relate to, that seems approachable, attainable. Again, have a SMART action plan, which is specific and measurable. But have because there's so many people that's gone through it and gone through different things, and you cannot think of everything, but there's nothing new under the sun. And so if you find someone, and again, once you find your mentor, make sure that they have a lifeline because they can be your mentor for now, and then you have to, once you elevate yourself, you have to find a different mentor. Keep growing and keep pushing.
I like that. Great advice, Gardy. And thank you again for being here with us today. So I'm going to take this time to kind of wrap us up and just say once again for our listeners, it's been very educational and very eye-opening. I love the way that you guys are running your business and everything that you built into the business. Just seems to be right. It seems to be good for people, and I think it's true to your vision, and your mission and what you guys have set out to do. It sounds like you're doing it. The success is showing with now 5 locations of the Craft Food Hall projects in California, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. I think you said. Did I miss another state?
We're looking into Tennessee as well.
Hey, you're getting closer to North Carolina, my friend. Tennessee's a great place to be as well. So stay tuned for more Craft Food Hall projects coming to you. Gardy Desrouleaux, thank you so much for being on today. Desrouleaux, I'm going to get it right one day. You're going to be so proud of me. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. You are a blessing, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And for all our listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Local Leaders Podcast. We look forward to catching you on our next show.